Dude, she really said, well, at least your mom won't be meddling anymore, and laughed. At my rehearsal dinner, in front of everyone. That's how I started explaining this whole mess to my buddy Zach the next day over beers. But let me back up, this shitstorm didn't start with that one line. That was just the detonator. Let's rewind about a year. That's when I proposed to Tessa Whitmore. She was, well, is this perfectly curated human being. You know the type. Instagram perfect curls, always drinking oat milk lavender lattes, has a skincare fridge and a public Pinterest board for her aesthetic. But look, I was in love. Or at least I thought I was. We met at a wine tasting event in Napa that my paramedic crew got invited to for some community recognition thing. She was the event planner's assistant there to make the place look like a movie set and post content about it. I'd just gotten off a brutal 12-hour shift, still smelled like antiseptic and old blood. But I swear to God, she looked at me like I was someone. Not just that blue-collar guy. Our first date was at this taco truck spot in Oakland. She made fun of how I ate with one hand and used the other to hold the foil wrapper like I was guarding gold. I laughed. I liked that she noticed small things. Back then, I didn't realize that Tessa noticed everything because she needed control over everything. Anyway, 6 months in, I was hooked. Proposed with my mom's old ring. Tessa said yes, cried, kissed me. Posted it with the caption from ER to Ever After, and I thought, wow, maybe this is it. I was wrong. A year ago, before everything flipped, my mom, Catherine, God, she was my anchor, a retired Army nurse, the kind of woman who could disinfect a bullet wound while telling you to sit up straight and finish your damn sentence. She passed away 2 years ago. Lung cancer. Didn't even smoke, just got unlucky. I still remember the sound of the morphine pump at night more clearly than her laugh sometimes. That's the part that eats at me. But my mom wasn't just my hero. Turns out she saved Lorraine Whitmore's life. Tessa's mom back in Iraq. Lorraine had gotten injured in a blast while doing some embedded media project. My mom kept her from bleeding out. Not metaphorically. Literally. Clamp and compress until the chopper came. Small world, right? You'd think that would have earned my mom some damn respect from Tessa's family. Spoiler, it didn't. 6 months ago. Early red flags. I wish I'd clocked. Tessa's parents are old money meets performative philanthropy. They host charity galas and spend more time wine tasting than parenting. Grant, her dad, once told me, people like you keep the country functional. That's noble. He meant it like a compliment. You know, the good peasant type. I let a lot of things slide. Like how they always picked the most expensive options for the wedding without asking if I could afford half. Or how they referred to my hometown as quaint, but in that way that meant beneath us. Then came the wedding planning. And every time I mentioned something sentimental like wanting to include a small tribute to my mom during the ceremony, Tessa would go, babe, that's kind of a downer. We want people to be joyful, not crying, right? I should have walked then. I didn't. Last week. The rehearsal dinner setup, they chose the location, a vineyard they partner with. Think chandeliers in the barn, vegan amuse-bouche guest list full of people who pronounce charcuterie like it's sacred text. I only had about 8 people on the list. My dad, my sister Marin, and a few friends from the firehouse. The rest Whitmores, or people who wanted to be them. I remember arriving and instantly feeling off. Tessa was glued to her phone, barely looked up when I complimented her dress. Grant was outside shaking hands like he was running for office. Lorraine was already sipping champagne like it was water. Then came the speeches. Last night, the nuclear moment. Grant grabs the mic first. Talks about Tessa's vision, her refined palate, her ambition. Then he goes, and I quote, "We always knew Tessa would marry someone grounded. And Ethan, well, he's certainly down to earth." People chuckled. I didn't. Then Lorraine, with that fake teeth smile, says, "We're just thrilled to be welcoming Ethan into the family." And of course we remember his mother, Catherine, wasn't it. She always had strong opinions. Very involved. Then she winked, like it was an inside joke. Like my mom, the woman who saved her goddamn life, was just some busybody from the suburbs. But that wasn't the worst part. Tessa laughed. A soft, pretty laugh. Like none of it mattered. This morning, the real betrayal, I went home pissed. Barely slept. Something didn't sit right. So I opened my mom's keepsake box, the one I keep on the top shelf of the closet. And the locket, the one my mom gave me when she was dying, gone. I tore the place apart. Nothing. Then I remembered Tessa came over 2 nights ago, said she wanted to drop off a scrapbook. Used the bathroom for like 10 minutes. I texted her, "Did you take my mom's locket?" She replied, "I didn't take it. I just borrowed it. I wanted to wear it for the wedding, so it felt like she was there too." Excuse me. No apology. No, I should have asked. Just entitlement. I was shaking, not crying, just furious. Because this wasn't just a locket. This was 3 generations of women. That chain held more weight than any ring on her damn finger. And she borrowed it like it was costume jewelry for a photo shoot. Nah, that was the final straw. This morning felt like static in my brain. I hadn't even had coffee before I was dialing Marin, my sister hands shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. She picked up on the second ring. "You good?" she asked immediately. "No," I said. "She took Mom's locket." There was a pause. Then softly, "She what?" I told her everything. The weird speech, the laugh, the locket, the borrowed it for connection bullshit. She didn't even pretend to sound shocked. "You know what you gotta do, right?" Yeah, I knew. The wedding brunch was supposed to be some kind of wholesome end note before the big day. Hosted at another vineyard owned by one of Lorraine's socialite friends. Another picturesque backdrop. Another crowd of people who thought I was the side character in Tessa's fairy tale. Not anymore. By the time I got there, people were already sipping mimosas and saying fake nice things. Tessa was all smiles, like nothing had happened. She walked over to greet me, kissed my cheek like we hadn't just text fought over her robbing my mother's memory. "Hi babe, you look so handsome today." I didn't say anything, just stared. My jaw probably looked like it was carved out of concrete. Grant clinked his glass. "Let's get this started, folks. We're just 1 day away from marrying off our little star." Marin nudged me from the side. "You gonna do it?" I didn't answer. I was too busy watching Tessa's smile freeze when she saw the envelope in my hand. The one with the flash drive I'd just gotten from my neighbor Brian. He manages the security system at our complex. I called him after finding the locket missing. He owed me from the time I pulled his kid out of a rolled-over SUV. He pulled the footage for me, no questions asked. Tessa on camera opening the keepsake box, holding the locket, opening her bag, putting it inside, looking around, smiling. Winked at the mirror. I waited until everyone had eaten. Waited until the staff brought out those tiny creme brulees everyone pretends to enjoy, but no one finishes. Then I stood up. "Sorry to interrupt," I said loud enough that the conversations died down. Grant looked annoyed. Lorraine looked confused. Tessa, her eyes were already darting around. I walked to the front of the room, took a deep breath. Felt the locket in my pocket. Cold. Solid. Real. I had a speech prepared. I said, voice shaking but loud. But that version assumed I was marrying someone who respected me. Who respected my mother. Silence. People turned toward Tessa. She stood frozen like a Barbie mid-glitch. "Last night at the rehearsal dinner, some of you laughed when my mom was called involved. Or when it was implied that her death made things easier for planning. That was disgusting." Lorraine opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "Not done." I pulled out the envelope. 2 nights ago, Tessa came over, said she wanted to drop off some wedding stuff. She asked to use the bathroom. What she actually did was go into my closet, open a box I've never let anyone touch, and steal this. I pulled the locket out and held it up. Gasps. This locket belonged to my great-grandmother. My mom wore it when she got married. She gave it to me before she died of cancer and said, "You'll know who to give it to." I looked right at Tessa. "And it wasn't you." She took a step forward. "Ethan, save it." I pulled the flash drive from the envelope and handed it to Marin. "Anyone who wants to see the footage of her taking it, come find us after brunch." Grant stood up. "That's enough. You're embarrassing yourself." I looked at him and felt a calm I hadn't felt in days. "You're right. I am embarrassed. Embarrassed that I ever thought I could be part of this family. That I ignored every red flag because I thought love meant swallowing disrespect." Tessa's lip was quivering. "You're making a scene," she said. Her voice cracked. "You made this," I snapped back. "When you laughed at my mother's memory, when you stole from me, when you turned everything into a production for your goddamn Instagram." People were whispering now. A few folks from Tessa's side got up and quietly left. I looked around one last time. There is no wedding. Not tomorrow, not ever. And with that, I walked straight out the damn vineyard. I didn't cry in the car. I just sat there. Let the silence breathe. Marin joined me 20 minutes later, tossed me a protein bar and a water bottle. You good? Not really, I muttered. You will be, she said. You just blew up a curated hellscape. That takes guts. I went home, crashed for hours, phone blowing up the whole time. Texts, missed calls, emails. From Tessa, we can talk. You're overreacting. I didn't steal, I borrowed. You're ruining everything. From Lorraine, you humiliated our family. We trusted you. I expected more from someone your mother raised. Screw that. I ignored all of it. Then came the kicker. My dad called, said Lorraine had tried to call him, asking if he could talk some sense into me. That's when I really lost it. They insulted Mom, publicly. Mocked her like she was a nuisance. And now they want me to just get over it. Son, he said quiet, your mom would have raised hell. Yeah, I said, and I just did it for her. That night, I took the locket and placed it back in the box. I stared at it for a long time. Then I wrote a post. Not for Reddit, not for Tessa, not even to go viral. Just for me. Today, I called off my wedding. Not because of cold feet, not because of drama, but because I realized that love without respect is just performance. My mom saved the life of the woman who laughed at her memory. She raised a man who took the high road for too damn long. But today I stopped swallowing my pride, and I finally chose myself. The morning after the blow-up, I woke up to 72 missed notifications. No joke, 72. Texts, emails, missed calls, Instagram tags. Even one damn LinkedIn message from someone who was sorry to hear about the unfortunate news. Unfortunate. I didn't even open most of them. Just scrolled half asleep, half still angry. But some names jumped out. Tessa, Grant, Lorraine. Even a couple of her cousins I barely remembered meeting. Here's a taste. Tessa. Please talk to me. I didn't think it would blow up like this. Tessa. You're acting like I meant to disrespect her. I didn't. I wanted to honor her. Grant, that was a very immature stunt. You humiliated my daughter. And us. Lorraine. I thought your mother raised you better than this. Random cousin, I always knew Tessa was too much. Good for you. Another cousin, LMAO. What a legend move. There it was. Both the guilt and the praise coming in like waves. It was like I'd broken some unspoken rule: don't disturb the curated piece even if you're the one bleeding underneath it. I sat on the couch, locket in hand, no shirt, sweatpants, coffee mug going cold in front of me, and just let myself feel it all. Because here's the thing, calling off a wedding isn't just drama. It's grief. It's shame. It's mourning the life you thought you were going to have and realizing it was probably going to bury you instead. By noon, the story was kind of out there. Someone, probably one of the brunch guests, had posted a vague update to Facebook. Y'all, a wedding got nuked at brunch. Groom called it off mid-toast. Exposed the bride in front of everyone. Apparently she stole from his dead mom. Napa's never seen drama like this. Then the TikTok started. I wasn't even on TikTok, but my phone kept blowing up with people sending them. Clips of me standing at the mic. Someone had filmed it from the back of the room. It wasn't great audio, but you could catch enough. You stole something sacred. You laughed when they mocked my mother. This wedding is off. A girl voice-overed the clip with, ladies, if your man ever stands up for his mama like this, marry him. Oh wait, he dumped the bride. Never mind, he's ours now. That one got over 600K views in a day. But that wasn't the real fallout. The real fallout was the silence from people I thought would say something. People like mutual friends who had RSVP'd to the wedding and now didn't know which side to message. The ones who saw the TikToks and liked them, but never sent a single "you okay." Or Tessa's bridesmaids who DM'd me like I always thought she was kinda performative, TBH, like that somehow made up for the fact that they helped her plan a wedding where I barely got a say. My apartment felt cold, not physically, just emotionally, echoey. The suits were still in the dry cleaner bags. The vows I'd written were still folded on the nightstand. I read them one last time before tossing them into the trash. A few days later, Tessa showed up. I didn't answer the door at first, just watched from the peephole as she stood there in her designer coat, eyes, puffy hair, not done for once. She knocked again, softly, then leaned her forehead against the door. I cracked it open. "Ethan," she whispered, "you shouldn't be here." "I know," she said, "but I needed to look you in the eyes." I let her talk. She said she didn't mean to hurt me. Said she took the locket because she wanted something that made her feel connected to my legacy. Said her parents just get nervous around real emotions and sometimes say things they don't mean. Then she cried. "I thought I could make you proud." That's when I lost it. Proud? You thought stealing from my dead mother would make me proud. You think letting your parents trash her memory in front of everyone and laughing made me feel connected to you. She started to speak again, but I cut her off. You didn't want to feel close to my legacy. You wanted to wear it. Like a fucking accessory. That shut her up. You weren't marrying me, Tessa. You were building content. I was a prop. She cried harder. Not fake tears, I think they were real, but at that point it didn't matter. "I'll give the ring back," she mumbled. "Keep it," I said. "Pawn it. Frame it. I don't care. I'm keeping the locket." Then I closed the door and locked it. A week later, I went back to the vineyard. Not for some weird nostalgia trip. I was there to pick up the deposit refund that Grant had insisted I don't deserve. I brought the contract. Lorraine opened the door to the event office and froze. "Oh," she said with that tight-lipped look. "You. Just here for the check," I said. "It's in the clause. Cancellation under 24 hours vendor refund." "You embarrassed Tessa. Humiliated us," she said. "You mocked my mother." She didn't respond. I walked out holding the envelope, no goodbye. Just one last glance back at the vineyard. The place I almost said I do to someone who saw my grief as an aesthetic. You know what the weirdest part was? I felt lighter. Like that whole future I had planned, the house, the kids, the family dinners with the Whitmores glaring at my mashed potatoes like they were radioactive. It evaporated. And that was a good thing. I started doing small things again. I cleaned my mom's keepsake box. I printed a photo of her wearing the locket at her wedding. I went back to work. Saved a kid from a seizure in a Walgreens parking lot. Got blood on my sleeve and didn't care. That's what I do. That's who I am. I'm not someone's arm candy. I'm not a brand extension. I'm Catherine's son. And I remembered something she told me once when I was maybe 12 and got dumped for the first time by a girl who liked football players more than kids who read comic books. You don't chase people who treat your heart like a rental. Damn, Mom, you were always right. So yeah, that's how I blew up a wedding, recovered a stolen heirloom, and went semi-viral on TikTok all in the same 48 hours. But the best part wasn't the vindication. Not even the applause. It was peace. Just peace. And a quiet moment on the couch holding a cold silver locket that still smells like home. About 3 weeks after the whole thing blew up, I finally stopped waking up angry. It was weird at first, like my body didn't know how to not brace for a punch. I'd still wake up at 6:30, check my phone out of habit, expecting some fresh blast of passive-aggressive nonsense from Tessa or her mom. But it was quiet. Not peaceful quiet, just silent. And silence after chaos feels like walking into a house after a party. Floors sticky, half a cupcake smashed into the rug, and you're just standing there with a trash bag thinking, okay, now what? The first thing I did was throw out the wedding binder. I know that sounds small, but trust me, that thing was cursed. Tessa had turned it into a Pinterest board on steroids full of printed out email threads, color palette cards, sample menus from 3 different chefs, and a sketch of her custom ceremony gown that looked more like something out of a sci-fi film than a wedding. I stood there in my hallway in sweats, flipped through it once, then tossed the whole binder in the garbage. Not the recycling bin. The actual trash. I don't recycle disrespect. Next up was the apartment. We had already signed a lease on a bigger place. It was supposed to be our home post-wedding. 2 bedrooms, tall windows, overpriced appliances we didn't need. The kind of place that came with pre-installed Bluetooth speakers in the ceiling and a fridge that texted you when the milk was low. I canceled that lease. Lost a deposit, sure. But the thought of waking up in that place and remembering how I almost tied my entire life to a woman who weaponized sentimentality. Nah, hard pass. Instead, I stayed in my little two-bedroom, kept the couch where my mom used to nap during weekend visits, rehung the photo wall we took down to paint. You don't realize how many things get erased in preparation for a life you think you're building with someone. People started reaching out again slowly. At first, it was the low-stakes folks, coworkers, acquaintances, people from high school who saw the TikTok and wanted to say, "Dude, that was nuts, hope you're okay." Then came the real ones. Zach, my best friend from EMT training, showed up with a six-pack and a box of Oreos. "I didn't know if we were drinking or emotionally eating, so I came prepared for both," he said. We didn't even talk about the wedding that night. Just watched trash TV, made fun of the terrible acting, and crushed all 6 beers and most of the Oreos. Marin came by a few days later and helped me box up the last of Tessa's stuff. She pulled out a floral silk robe. "What do you want to do with this?" "Burn it. Garage sale pile it is." We laughed. Real laughter, not that tense, polite wedding laughter that feels like chewing glass. That night, Marin made me pasta, and we ate it sitting on the floor like college kids. She looked at me halfway through a bite and went, "You look lighter." "I feel like I just walked out of a cult," I replied. There were moments, though, moments where it still snuck in. Like when I saw an ad for a wedding band I almost bought. Or when I found a crumpled sticky note with scribbled vows draft number 3 stuffed in a drawer. Or the worst one, when I logged into my old Google Drive to pull a work doc and saw a shared wedding folder still titled Forever with E. Jesus. Delete. 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 And then I'd sit there afterwards, suddenly back in the middle of it all, like I was on a treadmill that suddenly rebooted mid-sprint. One night I almost texted her. Not to fix things, just to say something, anything. But then I remembered her face when I confronted her. The way she didn't look ashamed, just annoyed that I'd said it out loud. That was enough to stop me. I started journaling. Yeah, I know, sounds like some self-help podcast BS, but I didn't do it to be profound. I just needed somewhere to scream that wasn't a group chat. I wrote stuff like, "Was it always this fake, or did I just ignore all the signs because the ring fit?" I kept trying to include my mom in the wedding because I needed her to be there. Tessa kept removing her because she never wanted to share the spotlight. She didn't want a marriage. She wanted a brand collab. And one that hit me hard when I reread it. I miss who I thought she was. Because, yeah, that's the part people forget. You don't just grieve the person, you grieve the version you made up in your head. The fantasy you built on half-truths and hope. And when that illusion finally cracks, it's not just heartbreak. It's humiliation. Work helped. We had a multi-car pileup outside Richmond the week after, and I pulled a teenager out of a crushed Civic before the fire caught. Adrenaline still works better than therapy for me, apparently. The mom cried when I carried her kid to the ambulance, grabbed my arm and said, "You're an angel." I smiled, but in my head I thought, nah, I'm just a guy who finally stopped letting himself be used. That night, I slept 8 full hours for the first time in months. My dad called too. He doesn't usually talk feelings. Former Marine raised me with a handshake and a nod, but he tried. "Your mom, she'd be proud of you. That wasn't easy what you did." It didn't feel brave, I admitted. It felt like a disaster. "Disasters are how strong people start over," he said. "You just did it loud." Fair enough. I saw Tessa once more. Unplanned. She was across the street at a cafe in the city, sitting with someone who looked vaguely influencer adjacent. Same manicured nails, same ring light glow. She didn't see me. I stood there for a moment, just watched her laugh, sip her overpriced latte, scroll her phone, and I didn't feel anything. No rage, no heartbreak, no urge to storm over and say something clever. Just nothing. That was the moment I knew I was finally okay. So here I am a month out. No wedding, no curated feed. Just a man with a new understanding of what it means to be respected. I don't know what's next. I'm not suddenly swearing off love or putting up a fortress around my heart. I still believe in connection, in family, in partnership. I just know now that love doesn't mean letting people walk over the graves of the people who built you. If someone can't honor the people you came from, they don't deserve the person you've become. And if they think your grief is a nuisance instead of a doorway into who you are, they can leave. Hell, I'll show them the door myself. It's been about 2 months now. And here's the thing. They don't tell you about healing. It doesn't come all at once. It creeps up on you during the boring stuff. Folding laundry. Waiting in line at at CVS. Sitting at a red light and realizing you're not clenching the steering wheel anymore. Not thinking about what she'd say or how her parents would twist your words into some guilt-flavored manipulation. You just exist. And holy shit, it's peaceful. I started doing little things again. Stuff I'd stopped making time for because the wedding ate everything. Cooking real meals. Not just survival meals, like actual recipes. One night, I made my mom's chicken marsala from memory. Burned it a little, yeah, but the smell that hit took me right back to her humming old R&B while stirring sauce in our tiny kitchen. Felt like she was with me for a sec. I sat on the couch bowl in hand reruns playing in the background and just let it all be simple for a change. No planning, no expectations, just one man, one meal, one moment. Around that time, I got a message from someone unexpected. Rachel. She and I used to be tight. Not romantic, just friends. The kind of friendship that once meant something before life pulled us in different directions. We hadn't talked in, 3 years. She DM'd me. Hey, I saw what happened. I'm not going to pretend to know what you're going through, but I do know that you didn't deserve that. I stared at it for like 5 minutes. Then I replied, thanks, that means a lot. That was it. Simple. No big dramatic reunion. But the next day, she sent me a dumb meme, and just like that, we were texting again. Easy. Natural, no walking on eggshells. One night, she sent a voice note saying, you always had a backbone. You just didn't know how to use it until now. And yeah, that one hit. I also started going on runs again. I used to do it all the time, but somewhere between choosing napkin textures and hearing Tessa say, cardio makes your legs bulky, I stopped. Now I lace up and just go. No playlist, no set distance, just running until the buzz in my head gets quiet. One time I ended up at the cemetery where my mom's buried. Totally unplanned. I slowed down, walked over, and sat down in the grass next to her. I didn't marry her mom. The wind picked up right then. Not in a movie magic kind of way, more like a gentle reminder that I was still breathing. Still here. Still moving forward. I kept the locket. Meanwhile, Tessa went full PR mode. I didn't expect anything less, honestly. She made a soft-lit video titled, Why Things Don't Always Work Out, where she cried just enough to get sympathy but never actually apologized. Just danced around words like complicated communication issues and private matters. She posted a story with the caption, Healing isn't linear while sipping wine in a bathtub. I ignored it, mostly. Okay, I laughed at it a little. Because come on. But that was the thing now, I could laugh. She could try to control the narrative all she wanted. She could gather sympathy from followers who had no clue about the locket, the speeches, the entitlement, the way she let her parents torch my mother's memory while sipping champagne. It didn't change what I knew. It didn't change what I chose. My dad came over one weekend to help fix the leaky faucet I'd been ignoring for months. We worked in silence for a while. He grunted, I handed him tools. At one point, he looked up and said, You're different. That a good thing, I asked. It's a strong thing, he replied. Then we had a beer on the porch. Talked about nothing. The kind of nothing that means everything. I think the turning point, the real one, was when I stopped needing people to understand. At first, I wanted everyone to get it. I wanted validation. I wanted witnesses. But now I'm good if no one gets it. Because I get it. I know what I walked away from. I know why I did it, and I know who I'm becoming because of it. That's enough. I went on a date last week. Yeah, a real one. It wasn't magical. There were no fireworks, but it was chill. We talked about books and dogs and bad first dates. And not once did I feel the need to impress her. I didn't pretend to be on brand. I didn't shrink myself to fit her comfort. I was just me. And that felt revolutionary. Some nights I still think about what would have happened if I'd gone through with it. If I'd smiled through the speeches. If I'd let them hand me that mic after they trashed my mom and said, now say something about love. If I'd let myself believe that survival was enough. But every time that thought creeps in, I remind myself, that wasn't love. That was performance. And I'm done performing. You know what love looks like now? It's showing up for yourself. Saying no even when it costs you comfort. Choosing peace over validation. Love is what I felt when I stood up and walked out of that vineyard. It's what I felt sitting at my mom's grave with my heartbeat still racing. It's what I feel now, typing this no ring on my finger, no wedding photos, no dress code, no audience. Just me, whole, free, real. That's what came after the explosion. Not wreckage, rebuild. Slow, steady, honest. And it's still happening.